Hello. Hey, Sarah. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, Sarah. How do you do? Oh, I'm sorry. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, dear.
Well, heck, I was muted.
Hello? There you go.
Here I am.
Hi, Sarah. How you doing today? You doing all right?
It's been a busy day trying to work with landlords and tenants to make sure they don't have to go through eviction processes.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that gets exhausting. Yeah. Well, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about NCRC and the mediation process?
Love to. NCRC, Nashville Conflict Resolution Center, is a community mediation center. It's one of a few that we have in Tennessee. And what community mediation centers are nonprofits that provide services to people, usually free or at very low cost, so that if they have conflicts that have evolved and they're looking at court entanglement, we can use this as an alternative to going in front of a judge to resolve things. There are all kinds of reasons people use mediation. Sometimes it's for custody and visitation cases. And I think if anyone with kids knows that they probably have better ideas of how they want to work out sharing kids than a judge would know. So if you can work out in mediation something that works for you, so much the better. And it's really the same with landlord and tenant civil cases. Right now in the state of Tennessee, we've got just thousands upon thousands of backlogged, landlord-tenant eviction cases that are poised to come to court, and just untold numbers of people who are potentially, facing eviction. But if we can bring the landlords and the tenants together outside of the courtroom in this confidential mediation process to work out a solution that works for both parties, the courts are really happy to say that's great. We don't need to have any kind of eviction or a judgment that just makes life harder for everybody.
Is there any qualifying features that might lean things towards the tenant's way?
We will mediate, and the mediation centers around the state will mediate regardless. I mean, we don't care. No qualifications whatsoever. Okay. The whole point of mediation is we want to bring everyone to the table. And one of the great things we can do, often with landlords and tenants, there's a real power imbalance, right? Like it seems like the landlords have all the power sometimes. Mm-hmm. And what mediation does, what the mediator's job is to make sure that both of the voices have equal power. And it's a really great process to then be able to help people hear each other and start working together in a positive problem-solving way. And it's great. We're very lucky in Tennessee that we have a court system that is very enthusiastic about using mediation. And they really want people to use mediation. It's called an alternative dispute resolution tool, right? And the courts would rather people work things out in a way that they can really live with well. So it's just a question of right now we're trying to bring landlords and tenants to the table as fast as we can.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. I understand that you have been checking out the latest process for many renters to get rent relief.
Yeah.
Would you like to go through some of the steps needed to be taken to give this relief money in Nashville and around the state?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's confusing. When we were first planning this, we thought, by the time we hit, the 21st, 22nd, when, we get to today, we'll all know what's going on, and we still kind of don't. But the basic layout is the state does have a big pot of money from the federal government, right? Like 460 million, something like that. And 4 counties, to my knowledge as of today, are managing their own share of that money. So if you live in Shelby County, like the Memphis area, Davidson County, where Nashville is, Knox County, where Knoxville is, or Rutherford County, where Murfreesboro is, those counties each have their own processes to apply for rent assistance if that's what you need to prevent, if that'll help prevent an eviction. In all of the other counties, the Tennessee Housing Development Agency, which you can see on your screen there, is going to be the go-to place that has the funds ready to be provided for tenants. Now, all of this, while it's being handled differently, either in these 4 counties or by the THDA statewide, there are a couple things that were dictated by the federal government that apply to everybody. So first of all, in order to get rent assistance right now from this pot of money, you have to, if you're the tenant, you have to be able to make an argument that the reason you're behind in rent, the reason you're facing eviction is because you were affected by the pandemic. And that could be you were furloughed. It could mean you were sick. It could mean you had to stay home with your kids who didn't have daycare or had, who were sent home to do online schooling. There are lots, at this point, everyone was hit by the pandemic, but you do have to make a case for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then with this money, it's a little different than last fall. I'm sure we've got a lot of neighbors who got some assistance last fall and they need it again. It's a little different this time because now you, in order to qualify, a tenant cannot earn more than 80% of the area median income, which sounds very technical and kind of annoying. But there are actual numbers and tables and charts to help people understand. Well, this is really super tiny, but this is kind of made available by the THDA, and it's pretty easy to Google up. You pick your county, and you can read across what the qualifying 80% highest income would be if you are in a household of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 up to 8. The being able to say that your problem with rent has something to do with the pandemic, and being within this income, not making more than 80% of the area median income is all you have to do to qualify. I will say many people have asked about like social security numbers. Like, do you have to be documented? What do they want with these? What kind of personal information do they ask for? A tenant does not have to have a social security number. That being said, I have found on most of the applications, sadly, they ask for a social security number and then let you decline to give it. I kind of wish they would just leave it off, because I'm afraid that even asking for it may discourage some people from applying for this assistance. But I think that one of the biggest things I'd like people to be aware of is the organizations. We've got information here on your screen. I think we're going to see cycled the information for Davidson County, Knox County, Rutherford County, Shelby County. There are phone numbers to call, and there are links. I think in all of the counties now, the process for asking for assistance involves a whole lot of stuff online. And that's really hard for a lot of people. The money is designed absolutely to help the people who really need it, and really to help some of the most vulnerable, of our neighbors. Mm-hmm. And, unfortunately, those are often the people who have the hardest time having good bandwidth and having a way to upload documents and, have email addresses and all that.
Yes. I understand completely. I have a bit of experience with that. I do some work for homeless advocacy service, and it's just, they give them a lot of hoops to jump through just to be able to live,
Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
It's a dilemma because, the federal, I understand these organizations who in the counties and at the state level who are giving the money out right now, because they're government entities, they have to jump through their own hoops. But it's complicated. So I definitely urge people to to go into it knowing it may take a couple days to get through all this stuff, and you have to pull a lot of documents together. But the money is there, and it will be given out. And all of these organizations say, you know, they've hired a whole bunch of people to help people over the phone and to try and set up centers to help navigate. If we have time, I can share some visuals of what these portals look like. It may just be depressing. It's hard. They're complicated.
Ooh. Yeah, we'll go for it. If we have time, I would go for it. We'll give it a shot.
I'll let our secret tech wizard behind the curtain.
The man behind the curtain.
If Oz wants to share, okay, go ahead and go to the next slide. Next slide. No, next slide. You're not. Yeah, just hit forward. There we go. If you're in, okay, so if you are not in Shelby, Knox, Davidson, or Rutherford counties, so if you're in all the other counties in Tennessee, most people in Tennessee, you know, this is where you're going to go. You're going to go to the Tennessee Housing Development Agency website. And this is the thing is, there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to do. So you've got to set up an account, right? You're going to come to a page like this, and it says register, and you're going to need an email address, and you're going to need to be able to use that so that you can. Okay, well, Mr. Oz behind the curtain. I don't really know what you're doing here, but okay, go to the next slide.
There
we go.
Slide.
Just so you can see. One thing I'd like you to notice on this screen, landlords or tenants can apply. Ooh. So one thing that is very helpful for some tenants, if you have a good relationship with your landlord, I mean, it's in the landlord's interest to go through this portal, because there's a chance the landlord can get, you know, maybe some of this back rent that you haven't been able to pay for months and months and months. And, you know, the landlord's kind of up a creek also. So if everyone's going to stay afloat, everyone has to work together, and landlords can go through the application process with the tenant. But if you're the tenant, and if you're applying on your own, you're going to go ahead and start an application. And now go ahead to the next slide. This one, if you see where I circled in the yellow, there are a whole bunch of check marks. Every one of those is a whole long sheet of stuff to fill out or documents to upload. So again, no one should go into this thinking it's going to be super easy and whoop-de-doo. I'm going to, you know, it takes patience and maybe a couple days and, you know, the adult beverage of your choice. And we just got to help each other do it, right? To get these funds out.
Oh, everyone helping their neighbor.
We all got to help each other. Absolutely. Hey, Ben, why don't you close this one out and show us the Davidson County portal? We have a couple screenshots there too. Again, just so you kind of, when you go into it, you think, okay, I've seen this before. Yes, I'm in the right place, right? Mm-hmm. If you go to the Nashville Gov site, you can see here, they're calling it the HOPE rent relief program. Let's keep next slide. And again, and there you go. You got to open this. You start this application, and you go through a whole bunch of things again. You got to set up an account, and then they send you an email, and then you know, verify and all this stuff. Go ahead and flip through a little bit. You're setting up account with Hub Nashville. You check your email. This was my email. Okay, keep going. And finally, one more. We went through all of those different things to finally start an application.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of hoops. That's a lot of hoops.
Just to basically have an account in the system so we can start an application to figure out if we qualify.
Okay, right? I want to ask, why is it so complex?
You know, honestly, everybody's trying to work really fast, right? No one has ever tried to give this much money away to this many people this fast ever. Mm-hmm. So I think we got to be really appreciative of the efforts and hope that as we kind of get used to these systems, maybe we can also find some additional processes to speed things up. I just say, you know, I hope that it's going to get better and better and better, but at the moment, this is it. So it's just a lot. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And go to the next one. Next. I mean, there were a bunch of details. I've got a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see here. Next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, work with what we got.
Okay. Here, go back one. So here is an example of where they ask you for your social security number, or they let you say, check mark, I don't have or want to share my social security number. Well, I think some people, it could be some of our undocumented neighbors don't want to flag, right? They don't want to say, oh, I'm unusual not giving a social. Again, I kind of wish this weren't there. And I would just encourage people to go ahead with the portal. They're not fishing for whether or not you have a social, right? Let's go to the next screen. Here, okay, next one. You can go to the next one where I want to see my comments. Okay. Yeah, wait, back. This is where in the Mac portal, things get very complicated. And if you don't have a computer that you can work at and a printer, you're probably going to want to find maybe a nonprofit partner. There are a lot of the nonprofits in town in Davidson County, and I'm sure in other counties too, that are trying to provide in-person support. Yeah, Salamander.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut you short because it's about time for us to go ahead and start with those with the round table.
Oh, well, okay.
But would you be able to list off those nonprofits real quick, if you could?
Well, I think that basically it's what I would suggest in any of the counties is you go to the listed rent relief source, and they tend to list other support organizations that are providing help. Because there's a whole lot of stuff to download, upload, and whatnot.
Okay, thank you so much.